already know the habit is hurting you. You already know the relationship keeps pulling you backward. You already know the excuse is getting old. You already know the routine is keeping you stuck. And somehow you still find yourself going back to the same reaction, the same distraction, the same person, the same promise that this time it will be different. That could be one of the most frustrating parts of trying to grow. You become aware of the problem, you understand the consequences, and you may even feel completely serious when you say, I'm done. Then the trigger shows up. You get tired, lonely, stressed, rejected, embarrassed, bored, or overwhelmed. The old pattern is waiting for you. So, why do people keep repeating behavior that they already know is damaging? Why is knowing better often not enough to make us do better? And what does it actually take to break a cycle instead of temporarily escaping it? That is what we're talking about today. Welcome to the Welz Project. I'm Welz, and this is Season 1, Episode 3. This channel is built around truth, growth, resources, and real talk. The goal is not to tell you what to believe. It's to help you examine your thinking, your behavior, the systems influencing your life so you can make better decisions for yourself. In previous episodes so far, we've asked, are your opinions really yours? And we've even looked into how your mindset can shape your habits, standards, confidence, and direction. Now we need to go one step deeper. Changing your thinking does not automatically erase a pattern you have practiced for years. You can understand a problem and still repeat it. You can recognize self-sabotage and still participate in it. You can want a better life and continue choosing what feels familiar. Awareness matters, but awareness is not the finish line. Today, we're going to look at how repeating patterns actually work, what keeps them alive, and how to create a different response when the same trigger appears again. By the end of this episode, I want you to be able to identify one pattern in your own life. By the end of this episode, I want you to be able to identify one pattern in your own life, understand what it is doing for you in the moment, and build a practical plan to interrupt it. If conversations like this help you pause, reflect, and make better decisions, subscribe to the Welz Project, like the episode, and turn on the notification bell. That way, the next conversation does not pass you by, and the message has a better chance of reaching someone else who may need it. Let's get back to the episode. A lot of personal growth advice assumes that once people understand the truth, they will automatically change. Real life is not that simple. You may know you need to save money, but still spend it when you feel discouraged. You may know you should stop contacting someone, but still reach out when you feel lonely. You may know you need to begin the project, but keep planning because planning feels safer than being judged. You may know your anger is damaging your relationships, but still become defensive the moment you feel criticized. The problem is not always a lack of information. Sometimes the problem is that the old behavior has been practiced so many times that it becomes your fastest available response. When life is calm, you can think clearly. You can make plans, set standards, and promise yourself that next time will be different. The real test comes from when your emotions are active. When you are tired, afraid, rejected, frustrated, bored, or under pressure, you are more likely to fall back on whatever response feels familiar. That means change requires more than knowing what you should do. It requires preparing for the moment that you are least likely to want to do it. When people try to change a bad habit, they often focus only on the final action. They say, I need to stop overeating. I need to stop procrastinating. I need to stop spending. I need to stop arguing. I need to stop going back. But the visible behavior is usually the final part of a longer sequence. Most repeating patterns include 5 parts: a trigger, a feeling, an urge, a behavior, and a result. The trigger may be stress, criticism, loneliness, boredom, uncertainty, or even a particular person. The feeling may be anxiety, embarrassment, anger, sadness, or emptiness. The urge is the desire to make that feeling go away as quickly as possible. The behavior is what you do next. The result usually includes both a short term reward or a long term cost. For example, you feel overwhelmed by a task. The emotion is anxiety. The urge is to escape. The behavior is scrolling, cleaning something unimportant, watching another video, or telling yourself you will start tomorrow. The short term reward is relief. The long term cost is more pressure, less confidence, and another broken promise to yourself. Or maybe you feel lonely. The urge is to feel connected. You contact someone you already know brings confusion into your life. The short term reward is attentional familiarity. The long term cost is reopening a cycle you worked so hard to leave. Or you feel criticized. The urge is to protect yourself. You interrupt, raise your voice, blame the other person, or refuse to listen. The short term reward is that you no longer feel exposed. The long term cost is damaged trust and fewer honest conversations. This matters because the behavior may look irrational from the outside, but in the moment, it is often serving a purpose. It gives relief, comfort, distraction, control, attention, validation, familiarity, or an excuse to avoid something difficult. That does not make the behavior healthy. It explains why simply telling yourself to stop may not work. If the pattern is meeting a need, you have to address the need as well as the behavior. People do not always choose what's best for them. Sometimes they choose what's familiar. Familiar pain is predictable. You know how the argument will go. You know how the disappointment feels. You know which excuses you will make. You know how to survive that version of your life. A healthier future may sound better, but it may also require you to become someone that you've never been before. More disciplined, more honest, more visible, more patient, more willing to disappoint people, more willing to be misunderstood, more willing to look inexperienced while you learn. That uncertainty can feel threatening. You may say you want peace, but peace can feel strange if chaos has always been normal. You may say you want a healthy relationship, but consistency may feel boring if you are used to emotional highs and lows. You may say you want success, but success may require more responsibility, accountability, and exposure. You may say you want freedom, but freedom may require you to stop blaming other people for every part of your life. Sometimes the old path pulls you back because you already know who you are there. The new path requires you to build a new identity through repeated action. Pay attention to the way that you describe yourself. I've always been lazy. I am just bad with money. I always choose the wrong people. I have a bad temper. I never finish anything. I am not disciplined. I always mess things up. At first, those statements may describe past behavior. Eventually, they become instructions. If you believe quitting is a part of who you are, then every difficult moment becomes evidence that you should quit. If you believe you're bad with money, then learning a budget may feel temporary or fake. If you believe you always are choosing the wrong people, you may ignore warning signs because the failure already feels expected. This is why one mistake can become dangerous. You make progress for the week, then slip once. The old identity immediately says, see, nothing changed. But one mistake does not prove that change is impossible. It proves that the new response is not automatic yet. There's a difference between saying, I am a person who always quits, and saying, I have practiced quitting when things become uncomfortable. One sounds permanent. The other describes a pattern that can be replaced. Your identity shouldn't be based only on what you have done most often. It can also be shaped by what you are willing to practice next. People often talk about self sabotage as if someone is intentionally trying to destroy their own life. Sometimes that's not what's happening. Sometimes the best behavior is protecting you from a different kind of pain. You procrastinate because beginning creates the possibility of failure. You refuse to apply because rejection would hurt. You leave first because being abandoned would hurt more. You avoid difficult conversations because conflict makes you feel uncomfortable. You remain in the planning stage because action would expose your current skill level. You become defensive because admitting you are wrong threatens your pride. You go back to the wrong person because loneliness feels worse in the moment. The behavior may damage your future while protecting you from discomfort today. That is the trap. The immediate reward is real. The long-term cost is also real. Breaking the pattern requires you to become willing to experience some of the discomfort the old behavior has been helping you avoid. That may mean sitting with loneliness instead of contacting someone who brings confusion. Feeling uncertainty instead of demanding an immediate answer. Accepting that you are inexperienced instead of pretending you do not care. Listening to criticism long enough to find the useful part. Starting before you feel confident. Saying no even when someone is disappointed. Change often begins when you stop treating every uncomfortable feeling like an emergency. Your patterns are not created only inside your mind. Your environment can make the old behavior easier and the new behavior harder. If you want to focus, but every notification is turned on, your environment supports distraction. If you want to save money, but shopping apps, promotional emails, and stored payment information make spending effortless, your environment supports impulsive buying. If you want to stop checking on someone, but their account is still the first thing you see, your environment keeps reopening the connection. If you want to eat differently, but every convenient option around you supports the opposite behavior, willpower has to work much harder. If you want to build confidence, but spend every day around people who ridicule every attempt, your environment reinforces the old identity. You may not be able to change everything around you immediately, but you can reduce the number of cues that pull you backward. Delete the shortcut. Turn off the notification. Move the item. Block the account. Change the route. Prepare the better option in advance. Put distance between the trigger and the response. A stronger mindset should eventually produce a smarter environment. Now let's make this practical. I want to give you a framework you can actually use. We will call it the pattern breaker framework. There are 6 steps. Step 1, name the pattern clearly. Don't say my life is a mess. That's too broad to change. Be specific. I delay important tasks until the pressure becomes unbearable. I contact this person because I feel lonely. I spend money when I feel discouraged. I become defensive whenever I feel criticized. I agree to things I do not want to do because I'm afraid of disappointing people. A clearly named pattern is easier to observe. If you cannot describe the pattern in one sentence, you probably have not defined it clearly enough. Step 2, identify the trigger. Ask what usually happens immediately before the behavior. Is it a certain emotion, a time of day, a person, a place, a conversation, a memory, a feeling of boredom, a stressful event, a thought like, I deserve this, it does not matter, or I will deal with it later? Track the pattern for a few days if necessary. You may discover that what felt random actually follows a predictable sequence. Step 3, identify the immediate reward. Ask yourself, what does this behavior give me right now? Not tomorrow, not next month, right now. Does it give relief, comfort, attention, distraction, control, validation, avoidance, familiarity? Be honest. You are less likely to replace a behavior if you refuse to acknowledge what it is doing for you. Step 4, identify the long-term cost. Now look beyond the immediate relief. What is the pattern costing you? Time, money, health, peace, confidence, trust, opportunity, even self-respect? Write the cost down. The short-term reward often feels powerful because it is immediate. The long-term cost can feel distant until you name it clearly. Step 5, choose a replacement response. You cannot only remove a pattern. You need another response ready when the trigger appears. The replacement should be realistic, not perfect. If the pattern is procrastination, the replacement may be working for 10 minutes before deciding whether to stop. If the pattern is impulsive spending, the replacement may be waiting 24 hours before buying. If the pattern is contacting the wrong person, the replacement may be calling someone safe, writing down what you feel, or leaving the house for a walk. If the pattern is anger, the replacement may be saying, give me 10 minutes before I respond. If the pattern is saying yes to everything, the replacement may be, let me check my schedule and get back to you. The replacement will not always provide the same emotional reward. That is why it feels less satisfying at first. It gives you a different outcome. Step 6, make the better choice easier. Do not depend on willpower alone. Prepare. Set the reminder. Remove the temptation. Tell someone your plan. Put the right tool where you can reach it. Create a boundary in advance. If you want to work in the morning, prepare the workspace the night before. If you want to spend less, remove safe payment information. If you want to stop reacting immediately, write down the sentence you will use when you need time. When you want to leave a bad situation, decide who you will call before you feel tempted to return. Discipline matters. Preparation makes discipline more available when you need it. Let's walk through the framework with procrastination. The pattern is, I delay important work until the pressure becomes severe. The trigger may be opening the task and feeling overwhelmed. The immediate reward is relief. By avoiding the task, you temporarily escape the fear of doing it badly. The long-term cost is stress, rushed work, lost opportunities, and less trust in yourself. The replacement response could be, I will work for 10 minutes on the smallest visible part of the task. Then make the better choice easier. Remove the phone. Open the document in advance. Write the first 3 actions on paper. Set a 10-minute timer. The goal is not to finish everything. The goal is to interrupt the escape response. Now consider a relationship pattern. The pattern is I contact someone unhealthy when I feel lonely. The trigger is loneliness, rejection, or seeing something that reminds you of them. The immediate reward is connection or familiarity. The long term cost is confusion, emotional instability, and reopening a situation you already decided to leave. The replacement response could be when the urge appears, I will wait 30 minutes, write down what I actually need, and contact someone safe instead. Then make the better choice easier. Mute or block the account. Remove old messages from easy access. Keep a list of people you can contact. Plan something for the time of day when loneliness usually hits hardest. This is what practical change looks like. Not pretending the urge doesn't exist, but building a better response before the urge arrives. A mistake does not have to become a return to the entire old pattern. Many people lose progress because one slip because of reason to surrender. You miss one workout and decide the week is ruined. You overspend once and stop following the budget. You contact a person once and decide you might as well return completely. You lose your temper and tell yourself you have not changed at all. Do not confuse a mistake with an identity. Instead, review what happened. What triggered you? What were you feeling? What part of the plan failed? Was the replacement response unrealistic? Was the temptation too easy to access? Did you wait too long to ask for help? Use the mistake as information. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to shorten the distance between the slip and the recovery. A mistake is one event. Giving up is another decision. There is another challenge people do not talk about enough. Healthier patterns can feel boring at first. Chaos creates intensity. Procrastination creates urgency. Unhealthy relationships create emotional highs and lows. Impulsive choices create temporary excitement. A stable routine may feel quiet by comparison. Saving money is repetitive. Consistency is repetitive. Healthy relationships may feel less dramatic. Completing work early may feel less exciting than racing against the deadline. When chaos has been normal, calm can feel empty. A better life is often built through actions that do not feel dramatic while you are doing them. Here's your exercise for the next 7 days. Choose one repeating pattern, only one. Write down these 5 statements, and you can pause this between the statements if needed. The pattern I keep repeating is the trigger is usually in the moment, this behavior gives me the long term cost has been the next time the trigger appears, I will then track the pattern for 7 days. Each time the trigger appears, make a simple note. What happened? What did you feel? What did you do? What happened afterward? You're not trying to judge yourself. You're simply collecting information. At the end of the 7 days, review what you noticed. Did the trigger happen at the same time? Around the same person? After the same emotion? Did one replacement response work better than another? What needs to change in your environment? What support do you need? This exercise turns a vague problem into something you can actually study and improve. You do not break a cycle only by hating the consequences. You break it by understanding the trigger, recognizing the immediate reward, naming the long term cost, and preparing a better response. The old path may continue calling you. It knows your weakness, it knows your excuses, it knows what to offer when you are tired, lonely, embarrassed, angry, afraid, or uncertain. But familiarity is not destiny. Your past behavior can explain your current patterns without permanently defining your future. You may slip. You may discover that the pattern is deeper than you thought. You may have to adjust your plan more than once. That does not mean you're failing. Every time you recognize a pattern sooner, interrupt it faster, or recover more quickly, you are making progress. So here's the question I want you to answer in the comments below. What pattern do you keep returning to even though you know it is holding you back? Share only what you are comfortable sharing. Your honesty may help someone else recognize that they're not the only person dealing with a repeating cycle. If this episode helped you recognize something useful, like the video so it can reach more people. Subscribe to continue the series and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next conversation. I am Welz. This is the Welz Project. Challenge ideas, not people. Think deeper. Live better. Truth, growth, resources, real talk. Peace and love. See you next time.